Church, say amen. Certainly we're thankful to the Almighty God who blessed us again to be able to come and to worship Him in spirit and in truth. According to John 4:24, the Bible said God is a spirit. They that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. I want to thank all the ones who have participated this far and carried on the service. I want to thank Brother Adrian for that scripture reading. I thank Brother Simpson for that prayer, for that song, and thank Brother Cyrus for those wonderful words of prayer. Thank you for being here. We realize that it is challenging times where we're dealing with this coronavirus and what have you, but yet we still are trying to serve and worship God. And I pray that some things that I say would uplift our spirits and we be encouraged. And we know that we're trying to do as much as we can to abide by the rules or the laws, but yet if it comes to it, if we have to, if I have to preach 3 or 4 sermons with 10 people in here at one time, we'll do that. Because if we have to do that, we just have to do what we have to do and make sure, even if we have to follow other measures, let's make sure that we strive to always serve and worship God. Because I read in my Bible that when Jesus was talking about the communion, he talks about do this until I come again. So you got to keep doing it until he come again. We don't know when he comes. People thinking, hey, that we are trying to get through this, but who else can bring us through it beside God? So let's look at this text here, and I think some very encouraging things want to help us and help our faith here from this particular text, if you will. In Revelations chapter 2, Revelations chapter 2, in verse number 8, to right about verse number 11. Revelations chapter 2, verses number 8, to right about verse number 11. And it reads as, unto the angels of the church in Smyrna, write these things, said the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. I know thy works, and thy tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich. I know the blasphemy of them that would say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogues of Satan. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. And ye shall have tribulations 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit say unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. I want to use for a subject, I know your tribulation. When I look at this, I want you to know that God knows. When I look at the Bible, if you will, in Revelation here, watch what the Bible said. And Brother Cyrus, just if you will, look at the first part of that in each one of these verses, and let's recognize what God knows. Look at Revelation chapter 2 in verse number 2. We'll see where he was talking to the church at Ephesus. What did he say in Revelation 2 in verse number 2?
I know thy works.
Look at Revelation chapter 2 in verse number 9.
I know thy works.
Look at Revelation chapter 2 in verse number 13.
I know thy works.
Look at Revelation 2 in verse number 19.
I know thy works.
Look at Revelation chapter 3 and verse number 1. Revelation 3 and I know thy works. We can keep on. That's what he's saying. I know thy works. Revelation chapter 3 and verse number 8. He's saying, I know thy works. So I want you to know that God knows what you're doing. God knows where you're at. And God knows your tribulation. That's what we're going to be talking about this morning. God knows our tribulation. He said in this first verse, notice what he said here in this first verse, in the verse in our text. He said in Revelation chapter 2, where we begin in verse number 8, he said unto the angels. Now the angels were the messengers of God. He said unto the angels of the church of Smyrna, Now, Smyrna, I just want to pause here and tell you just a little bit about Smyrna. Smyrna was one of the places that in Asia was one of the most beautiful places in Asia. It was up there with Ephesus. It was a place of beauty. It was encircled, the Acropolis was encircled with the flowers. And this is why perhaps it was called the crown city, because of its beauty. Revelation here tells us about Smyrna to the Christian literature. It also means a time of bitter and a time, and that word means myrrh or bitterness. And you know, when I read in the book of Exodus, if you will, for the Christian, it was a time of bitterness. When you look at, if you will, in Exodus chapter 15, in verse number 22. If you're in this time to the Christian, it was a time of bitterness. Why? There was a contrast between the people there in Smyrna and God's people that was Christian. The people that God's Christian, they were suffering persecution. But let me tell you this, God can turn bitter water into sweet water. When I look at Exodus right here, and we may be in a bitter time, but God can turn bitter water into sweet water. Look at here, I see here in Exodus 15 in verse number 22. What does the Bible say? You remember the children when they was coming out of Egypt and they wanted some water. And he said in Exodus chapter 15, verse number 22.
So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea.
For Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, what?
They went out into the wilderness.
And they went out into the wilderness reach.
And they went 3 days in the wilderness.
And they went 3 days into the wilderness reach.
Found no water.
And found no water, what?
When they came to Marah.
But when they come to Marah reach,
They could not drink of the
they
water.
could not drink of the water, what?
For they were bitter.
For they were bitter. Now, myrrh means bitter. When these three men, when I say the wise men, I can't say three, but when the wise men came to see the birth of Jesus, they brought three gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold was for a king. Myrrh was a time of death, and when frankincense was for the priest. You talked about priests, the high priest in your lesson this morning. The priests were the one that offered up our incense. But when we look at this text and we see myrrh means that it meant for a burial, but the time of their persecution. This was a hard time for Christians right here, although they were living in a wealthy place where there were wealthy people, but yet they were in bitterness. Why? Because of the persecution. Now, when you look at history would tell you that there was a man by the name of Polycarp. 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 Polycarp was a man that was approximately 86 years old. And when this history say that this man was a follower, but he was when John was converted him, showed him about God, he believed in him, the faith. And the thing about it, there come a point when Polycarp, the people wanted to kill him and wanted to burn him alive. And when they wanted to burn him alive, you want to know what he said? He said to those people, this fire right here would only last just for a moment, and paraphrasing, but he was saying that, but the fire that you're going to deal with is an eternal fire. So Polycarp let them burn him. And somebody said, when they burned him, and they said, when the spear, the blood that drained out, it quenched the fire, it puts the fire out. But what I'm trying to get you to see, Polycarp died because of his faith. And you know, to a church that was being persecuted, Jesus had a message. And his message was, I was dead, but now I am alive, and I'm alive forevermore. So I want you to know, if they put you up there and burn you, if they do whatever they want to do to you, I can give you life after death. So when we look at this, and when I look at this text, I look at how that these things said the first and the last. And then I look at which was dead and is alive, referring back to Revelation chapter 1 and verse number 18. And then he said, watch this. I know, that's our subject. I know thy works and tribulation. And watch this. This is important. I know thy works and tribulation. I know what you're going through. I know about Corona before there was Corona. Right. I'll be here before Corona, and I'll be here after Corona. Because he is the beginning and the end. He wanted the people that was being persecuted to make sure that you know a message of whatever you go through, God is there. You remember last week we talked about, he said, I am in the midst. God is right here. Then notice what he said here. I know your tribulation and I know your poverty. Now let me show you this. He said, you remember about what I shared with you about this was a wealthy city. I remember visiting, and so often visiting Las Vegas. And this guy was telling me the value of this property in Las Vegas. It's very valuable. This Vegas Strip, man, if you buy a property there, you got some kind of property. He was telling me how expensive this was. And you know, as I walked through here and I saw people, me and my wife, we walked through and people was begging for a dime, a quarter, a dollar. We gave some of them money and bought some of them meals. And I asked my sister lived in Vegas. I said, why is this city so wealthy with all of this wealthy property? And here people right in the middle of it is begging, hungry. And he said, well, they have a place for them. They just won't go there. All right. But what the point that I'm trying to get you to see is that in the midst of wealth, there's some people that are in poverty. Well, that's what Smyrna was about. I'm talking about the crown city. I'm talking about where the Olympic Games were. I'm talking about a place where this was a place of music. It was the Motown of Detroit. It was a place of music, and this place of music, it is also was a place of science. Right in the midst of all of this beauty, right in the midst of all this wealth, you had God's people that was poor and suffering. And the thing about it, in the midst of all of this, because when a Christian became a Christian, they compensated his property, and he became poor. So you have God saying, I know what it's like to suffer. I know what it's like to have tribulation, because I came here, I died on the cross, and I know about tribulation. And then he goes on to say, not only do I know about tribulation, I know about poverty. Because I was rich and I became poor that I might save you. So God know about rich and he know about poverty. So here, God was showing them. Now there's a parenthetical a phrase here, and then notice what he said after he said poverty, and he said something in this parentheses, but thou art rich. You didn't get that. If you did, you didn't say amen. In other words, there were some people that had external wealth. They were people that was persecuting the people and taking away everything, and they were beating people. These are the people that had external wealth. But here's the parentheses. But thou art rich. You follow it? People may be rich on the outside, but you need this wealth on the inside. And this wealth, it comes from an inheritance. God give us his inheritance. We're blessed to be able to be rich in Christ. That's what is a blessing for us today. Then it goes on to say here, no, watch this. And I'm almost finished. For none of those things which thou shalt suffer, behold, the devil shall cast some of you in prison. Amen. When you can. Well, I recall reading Joseph thrown into prison, and God got him out. I recall Peter preaching and put him in prison, and he came and the little girl at the door went up and told the rest of them, and that Peter was at the door. I remember Peter being in prison. God got him out. I remember Paul being in prison, and Paul and Silas preached until midnight in prison, and God got him out. So I don't know what we're going to go through. All I know is whatever we go through, we need to keep the faith. And God will bring us through. And he will get us out. So watch this. So he said, I know your works. I know your poverty. God knows what you're doing. God knows your condition. God knows where you're at. How you know? Because God is omniscient. He knows everything. That's why it's so important that I put the emphasis on I know your works to let you know God knows everything. And God knows our tribulation. So watch this. And then when I look at this, notice what he said here. The latter part of verse number 10, into prison. And ye shall be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Perhaps that is apocalyptic language. It couldn't refer to 10 days at a time. Even I think about the time that I think Daniel was attested for 10 days. And then some might say this was a time of the persecution of those periods of time. So there's different application of different ways that people try. Commentaries might comment on that. But the idea is whatever that length of time, short time or long time, God can bring us out of it. And then it goes on to say here, but thou be faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. Now let me show you the significance of this. He said a crown of life. Because perhaps the Acropolis circled in a flower, a crown. And in that, when you think about this, you think about in those Olympic Games, what they did was, when they run these games, they would give them a wreath, kind of like a crown. And that wreath fade away. That's the significance of this crown. God said, in this town of wealth, where people play the games, and they run the Olympics, and they win, they only get a reward that lasts a little while. Have you ever got some roses and they just fade away? Have you ever got some flowers for Valentine's or any other holiday, anniversary, and they just fade away? Well, these wreaths was their reward that they got when they run this race. And he said, well, their wreaths fade away. But let me tell you about in the Crown City, what they call the Crown City. Let me tell you about a crown that fadeth not away. And that's an everlasting crown. Then he goes on to say, he that has an ear, it's important to listen to God. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit say unto the churches. He that overcomes shall not be hurt of the second death. Oh, that's beautiful there. You see, the first death might get you, but the second death, You see, the second death is that eternal condemnation here. And you look at it, you don't want that eternal death. Yeah, some of us may not even experience that first death, that physical death. Because when God come back, some of us are still going to be living. So, but that second death, that death that separates you from God for eternity, you don't want that death. Mm-hmm. Then we see here, that's why John writes this letter. And John, I often say, and I like the idea when I was studying the other texts, is how that when Rome tried to take away John's audience, God gave him an audience even up until 2,000 years later. We're still reading about John, and he had an audience when he was on the Isle of Patmos. He's still preaching through his word, and the words that he said, write these things, and we're still using these words today to encourage us. So the message is, I know your tribulation. God is saying, I know what you're going through. And God is with you. That's the message. Here's the gospel, Romans 10:17. Believe with all your heart. Hebrews 11:6. Repent of your sin. Luke 13:3. Confess that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Matthew 10:32. And be willing to be baptized. Going to Acts 2:38. If you're such an invitation, while I come, we stand and sing a song of invitation.